A customer asks you for a feature. You build it. It ships. And somehow, the deal is exactly as stuck as it was before. Because they never wanted the feature. They wanted to avoid a conversation. I have spent over a decade building software, and a good chunk of that selling it to other companies. Which means I have been on both sides of this call. The side asking for the feature, and the side stupidly building it. Here is the thing. Nobody tells you when you start shipping product to real customers. Half the feature requests you get are not feature requests. They are a hard conversation wearing a trench coat. Someone is scared of their boss. Someone is losing a budget fight. Two departments are at war, and you are the neutral country they have decided to invade. The request is real. The reason behind it is completely different from the words coming out of their mouth. And if you take the request at face value, you burn a sprint, you ship the thing, and nothing moves. So today we are decoding 6 of them. What the customer says, what they actually mean, and how to tell before it costs you a roadmap. Let's start with the one that pretends to be about data. Let's start with the most common one, the dashboard request. A customer, usually a manager, asks if you can add a reporting dashboard. Charts, exports, a big number at the top. They are very specific about the metrics, suspiciously specific. Here is what is actually happening. That person has a meeting coming up. Maybe a quarterly review, maybe a budget defense. Maybe their own boss has started asking pointed questions about whether your tool is worth the money. They do not need a dashboard. They need evidence. They need a screenshot they can drop into a slide that says, "Look, this is working. Do not cut this line item." The tell is when they care more about how the number looks than what the number measures. They will fight you on the color of a chart and completely ignore whether the underlying data is correct. When you spot this, the useful move is to ask, who is going to see this, and what decision are they making? Because if you understand the meeting they are walking into, you can build the one chart that saves the account instead of the 12 charts nobody opens. The second one hides inside the most boring feature imaginable, the CSV export. Someone asks, very casually, can we export all our data to a spreadsheet? And engineers love this request because it is easy. You knock it out in an afternoon and feel productive. But sit with why they are asking. Nobody wants a CSV because they enjoy CSVs. They want it because they do not fully trust that your product will still be here or still be theirs in a year. The export is an escape hatch. It is the customer quietly keeping one foot out of the door. Sometimes it is worse. Sometimes their boss still runs the entire operation out of Excel and does not believe a number until it is in a cell they can sort themselves. Either way, the export request is a trust request. They are telling you they are not fully bought in. The mistake is to just build the export and move on. The real move is to notice the doubt and ask what would make them comfortable living inside the product instead of exporting out of it. That is the actual conversation. Here is one that will quietly destroy your roadmap if you let it. The configurability request. A customer asks if a workflow can be made configurable, optional, toggleable. They want a setting, and it sounds so reasonable. Flexibility, right? Choice is good. Except, configurability is almost never about flexibility. It is about avoiding a decision. What is really happening is that two people, or two whole departments, on the customer side, cannot agree on how the workflow should work. Sales wants it one way. Operations wants it the other way. Neither of them has the authority or the appetite to overrule the other. So instead of having the hard internal conversation, they push the conflict to you. Make it a setting, and then nobody has to lose. You have just been handed someone else's political stalemate to maintain forever in code. Every toggle you build is a hard conversation somebody avoided, and now you own it. When you hear a configurability request, ask who disagrees about this internally. If the answer is two named people, you have found the real problem, and it is not a feature. Number 4, and this one comes dressed as a technical question. The integration request. Does it connect to Salesforce? Does it talk to our SSO provider? Does it play nicely with the internal tools? On the surface, it sounds like a checklist item. It is not a checklist. It is a hostage situation. What the person in front of you is really saying is that there is an IT department, or a security team, or a platform team that they have not introduced you to yet, and that team has the power to veto this entire purchase. Your champion is scared of them. They know that if your tool becomes yet another disconnected island of data, IT will kill it on site during review, so they are trying to arm you with answers before that fight even starts. The tell is that the person asking often does not care about the integration themselves. They are asking on behalf of a ghost. When you see this, the smart question is, who else has to approve this, and what would make them say no? Find the ghost early, because the ghost is the actual buyer. This next one is the one that traps startups every single time. The enterprise readiness request. We would need single sign-on. We would need a SOC 2. We would need role-based access before we can move forward. And the founder here's a clear path. Build these things and the deal closes. So they spend 3 months building SSO and SOC2, come back proudly, and the deal is still not closed. Because the request was never a real gate. It was procurement talking through your champion. These are not features your user wants. They are boxes on a vendor security questionnaire that procurement and legal will not waive. Your champion recited them to you because that is what they got handed. The danger is treating a procurement checklist like a product decision and reordering your entire roadmap around it. Some of these, you genuinely do need to sell to bigger companies. Fine. But before you build a single one, ask the plain question. If we had all of this today, is there anything else standing between us and a signed contract? Their answer tells you whether you found the real blocker or just the polite one. And finally, the one that carries the most fear underneath it. The competitor parity request. A customer sends you a feature that your rival has and asks, in a slightly tense tone, whether you can match it. And usually, there is a deadline attached that makes no sense. It needs to be done by end of quarter. Why the panic? Because this person has already gone into a room, put their credibility on the table, and told their boss that your product can do this, or will do this. They picked you. They championed you. And now, they are terrified of being the person who backed the wrong tool in front of leadership. The feature is not really the point. Their reputation is the point. This one is dangerous precisely because the fear is real, and it makes you want to say yes to everything. But building a feature to rescue one person's promise is how you end up with a roadmap owned by other people's anxiety. The move here is not to refuse and not to blindly agree. It is to ask what happens if this slips a quarter. Their answer tells you whether this is a real business need or a personal rescue mission. Sometimes it is worth doing, but you should always know which one you are signing up for. So here is the pattern under all 6. The feature is rarely the thing. Behind almost every request is a person managing something they are not saying out loud. Fear of their boss, a budget they are about to lose, a rival department, a procurement process, a promise they already made. The worst thing you can do is take the words literally, build fast, and feel productive while nothing actually moves. The best engineers and founders I know treat every strange feature request as a question, not an instruction. They ask who else is involved, what decision this feeds, and what happens if it slips. 9 times out of 10, that one question surfaces the real conversation the customer was trying to avoid. And once it is on the table, you can actually solve it. Sometimes with code, very often without. If you have ever burned a sprint building the wrong thing for the right customer, you already know this one is true. Subscribe if it helped. And if you know a founder who says yes to everything, you know exactly who to send it to.